his image and mirroring his reflection. Black and beautiful, my shortcomings is his perfections. Addicted to this spoil and Memphis while they toil. On the clouds, I'm in craving. Homage to my people who fight to be equal.
Welcome, beautiful people, to Colorism Conversations. I am Dr. Karen Moore, founder of I Am the Color of Beautiful Global Spoken Word Initiative and movement, where we are redefining the standard of beauty for women of color. Our focus is on eradicating colorism in communities of color across the globe. And we're so glad you've joined us. Please invite others to join the conversation that we're having here. And if you're watching the replay, we welcome you. And it's going to be really a great conversation that we're having today on Colorism Conversations. I always say that, but it is a great conversation that we are going to have here on Colorism Conversations today. And I am really looking forward to it. It is a conversation that is definitely one that we have often about Black women in our hair. And so I'm going to bring on my sister, again, is joining me. I'm so happy. My sister's joining me today. Hey, beautiful.
Hey, how are you?
I'm so good. I'm so good. Thank you all guys again for joining us. You know, you can chat with us. Let us know that you're here and where you're tuning in from. And we are looking forward to having this conversation about our crowns are under attack. And I want to say before we get started with the conversation that we're having a conversation, and it's important to have a conversation and dialogue about this. But I want to just be clear that by no means are we here to tell anybody what you should be doing with your hair. I feel the hair is a very personal choice for everyone. I have run the gamut with what I do with my hair. So, you know, and even after I did locks I think for almost 10 years, I was wearing locks. And I cut them off and went back to wigs and discovered clip-ins, which I didn't know anything about clip-ins. I had locks, right? So, I mean, we run the gamut many times in what we do with our hair. And so we're just having a discussion about it because hair is your own personal choice. It is important to also understand the reasoning behind the choices that we make sometimes. And that many times the choices that we make may not necessarily be the choices that we want to make in regard to what we do with our hair, but given the dynamics of certain situations, it may be a choice that we are having to make. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is our crowns being under attack and about how colorism and hair texture are seen how they kind of interrelate, and how your hair many times, how you wear your hair can very much play into the whole idea of colorism and how we're perceived in our different spaces based on our hair. Right? So if we talk about hair and how Black women, and we're specifically talking about Black women in this conversation because I'm not sure that other women of color have the same issues, the same hair things that Black women or those of African American, of African descent. I'm not sure how much other women of color really go through all of these things with their hair. I could be wrong. But I think that it's primarily geared towards Black women and all of the things that we go through as far as our hair is concerned. And, I remember when we were coming up that my dad didn't want us straightening our hair. He was totally against hot combs and us straightening our hair. And I think I was a teenager, or I might have even been at the point, I might have even been 18, where I actually started straightening my hair.
So
I don't know, Green, if you remember.
I remember as a young child going to the hairdresser on Jones Beauty Shop. I think it was on Germantown Avenue as a young girl. And I remember distinctly, I think I would get a press and curl. And I remember it distinctly because I would hear these women talking about all these crazy things that these women were doing. I didn't realize they were talking about soap opera characters. So I thought that there were people in the world that were living some really wild lives. But I do remember as a young child going for to get straightened. And we didn't get perms. But I do remember as a young child getting my hair straightened.
Dad wanted our hair straight.
I remember that as a young girl.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I do.
So there is all these different things, with hair and what we do with our hair and whether or not. So one of the things that, we need to talk about is it being sort of a historical trauma in regard to, colorism. We talk about the trauma, hurt and trauma of colorism, but there even is some sort of historical trauma around Black women and their natural hair. And the fact that we pass down these ideas and these behaviors, beliefs, and attitudes to younger generations and perpetuate the same oppressive and traumatic experiences. The idea that natural hair is not beautiful, and we even talked about some of the terms that are used when we talk about natural hair. We talk about kinky, we talk about nappy, and some of these other terms that we use when we talk about the natural hair, the natural makeup of Black women's hair. And so we need to understand that a lot of this is historically passed down about this issue about our hair. Right. And that, for your hair to be kinky or nappy is, it's not beautiful, it's not appealing, and it's not the kind of hair that's going to get you further up the corporate ladder. We'll talk about corporate right now, because pretty much if you are in your own business, well, that's not necessarily true, but anyway, getting you up the corporate ladder, maybe even getting you certain clients if you're in your own business. The idea of having this natural, nappy, kinky hair is just not beautiful and not what's going to get you ahead.
Right. And, it is historical. Of course, it goes back to, hair texture as being seen as part of your phenotype. That you can, when you go back to looking at slaves, the field slaves had hair that was natural. But as you started to get that mixture, then the lighter skinned slaves started to have a different texture of hair. And that texture was automatically associated with being better because those lighter slaves were seen as being better. And then, we went through the whole right after we got out of that, and we went into the straightening our hair because we were, trying to get jobs, trying to fit in, trying to be seen as hireable. A lot of women had to go to straightening their hair, and with Madam C.J. Walker and the perms and all the stuff that we had to do to be seen as more acceptable. And we did get to the Black Power movement, which made it more acceptable to have afros. But what that did was that kind of politicized our hair. So now when you're looking at an afro, you're seen as being radical because
right.
you're trying to associate the hair and the appreciation of who I am and my appreciation of myself with a political movement. So now hair becomes a political thing.
And exactly, I think it was that way a lot too with locks.
Mm.
Now, I know that I didn't call them dreadlocks because um, my cousin Chad, that actually started my locks, he said locks aren't to be dreaded, considered a dreadful thing.
Right.
So, we're not calling them dreadlocks, we're calling them locks. And however, I believe that locks are still seen as, and I remember reading an article where they were talking about one person's perception of locks was that they were a political statement,
Mm-hmm.
or that they were people that wore locks were members of a specific cult
Mm-hmm.
because they wore locks. And once again, sometimes it just comes down to, that's how I wanted to wear my hair for that particular period of time. It wasn't a political statement. And I think I did a poetry piece on that it wasn't a political statement, that it's my hair and that's how I chose to wear it during that season of my life. And, I think that many times we associate, like we said, we associate different hairstyles with meaning different things. And, the fact that I remember very distinctly that there was and I'm not going to call her name, but there was a television host who had a guy on who had actually cut off his locks. And she said when she introduced him that he cleaned himself up.
Wow.
And this is a very prominent television host that said this.
Wow.
And I was like, and I think after she said it, she kind of got this look on her face, like, maybe I shouldn't have said it that way, but it was out by then. But, the fact that this whole idea that, wearing locks, when you cut them off, you cleaned yourself up.
And that's the same thing with a lot of the reasons, of the straightening and the perming and all the other stuff is that you've tamed your hair.
Right.
You've made it more manageable. So it's how you look at it. And anybody's head can look sloppy regardless. I mean, if you don't take care of your hair, you can look sloppy. But some of these people have locks, have gorgeous locks.
Oh my God.
And as long as your hair is, just because I don't necessarily, like you say, it doesn't have to be a political statement. When anybody else's hair is changed, if it's a white person or a Korean person or Asian, it's not a political thing. If they dye their hair blonde, it's not a political statement. So why is it a political statement when I choose to cut my hair and wear an afro? Or why is it a political statement if I choose to wear locks? But
exactly.
They try, and what happens also is because it's seen almost as a political statement, oftentimes when you do go into the workplace, you are looked upon less favorably because they think, oh, you're radical, you're going to be harder to get along with, you're not going to be job ready because of my hair. So now you've taken something, you've politicized it, and now you've turned it into something that you can use against me with no basis other than, this is what happened during the Black Power movement. People became proud to wear their hair the way it is, and now everything is a political statement.
And I think too that it's just another way of division and discrimination. Dividing us even within ourselves, because many times I know I felt that I was treated differently by Black women because my hair was locked.
It's interesting you say that, because I was telling you earlier today, for some reason people have questioned me almost all my life about my ethnicity. And so I finally, a couple weeks ago, asked one of my coworkers, what is it about me that makes people question my ethnicity? And it's not like she had to hesitate and think about it. She said, the color of your skin and the texture of your hair. And I was like, are you serious right about now? She said, well, when I first met you, I thought you were mixed because of the color of your skin and the texture of your hair. So you're looking at me and making a determination about me from two factors. So if I'm dark skinned and I've got my texture hair, does that make you question my ethnicity? If I'm light skinned and have a different texture hair, does that make you question my ethnicity?
But it's interesting because unfortunately, that's what we do.
We do. And your hair becomes part
We'll look at
of how
somebody,
to identify you.
we'll say, okay, if we think we want to try to determine, which really, that's a whole nother story. But we look at people and we decide that we're going to try to determine what they are. What are you? How about human being? But that's another story too. What are you?
That's usually my answer. What are you?
Hello. But when you get into this "what are you" question, a lot of times it's about the hair. And if we're going to look at hair and we're going to make a determination, because we'll look at it and say, oh, she's definitely black. Look at her hair. That's what people will say.
Yeah.
Or she can't be black. She can't be all black. Look at her hair. It's straight or it's curly.
Or it's not coarse, or it's not coarse, or it's not.
Those different determinations of hair are. Many times that's how we'll label people.
That's true. And I was sharing with you too the fact that it's just amazing to me that I think about the only people who have ever asked to touch my hair are Black women. What do you need to touch my hair for? Because I really want to turn around and say, so touch your own hair. Okay, what is this? But something about hair that just makes us categorize people based into different groups, whether they be positive or negative. And it's and we identify a lot of our individuality and our self and our confidence based on our hair.
Mm-hmm.
Because Black hair is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Oh, yeah. You will spend some money on our hair.
Absolutely.
And so when you make my hair such a big deal, you're really kind of affirming who I am as a person.
Right, because you'll not only be judged by the color of your skin, but you'll be judged by your hair.
By the texture of my hair.
So that as a woman,
mm-hmm.
if I am already going to be judged by my skin being darker, my deeply melanated skin, the term that we use here at The Color of Beautiful, if I'm going to be judged by my deeply melanated skin, then it's possible that if my hair is not natural, that I can be accepted more so because I'm not looking, even though I'm Black, I'm not looking real Black or so Black or, all these different terms that we talk about. Because if my hair is Afro or it's braids or it's locks or it's any of those things that are determined to be natural, then I don't want to be looking really extra Black because I have my hair in one of these styles that's considered to be natural, and this is Black hair.
Right.
And I remember when I was getting my hair locked, that my first set of locks, the woman told me, she said, now, your hair is very soft. Your hair is not going to lock immediately or quickly or none of that. You are going to have patience. It's going to take a long time for your hair to lock. I'm just telling you. And she even said to me, you may have to do sister locks because your hair is very soft and it's not going to lock easily.
Mm.
And it didn't. I mean, even when I cut my locks out, there were some of my ends that were still not locked,
Mm.
not totally locked. And I had my second set of locks because I cut the first ones out. And it was interesting because I learned a lot about my hair through getting my hair locked, because I cut the first set out because I didn't like the fact that I had what I called these big clumps in my locks. You know, I would see these locks, particularly men's locks. Men have the most beautiful locks.
Mm.
But I would see these locks that were just perfectly a perfect shape, right? And I was like, I don't know why I have these big clumps. So I cut them out. Well, lo and behold, the second time around, here I am again. And my cousin told me, he said, it's the curl pattern of your hair.
Mm.
So you're going to have these locks that, and I learned to embrace my locks, and I love my locks. I did love my locks. But he said the curl pattern of your hair is going to cause you to have like these clumps in your hair. And so I had to learn to appreciate the fact that my hair wasn't going to be like, my locks weren't going to be like other people's locks. Again, it's about embracing your individuality and your uniqueness. And that's the way my locks were going to be, because that was the curl pattern of my hair.
Mm.
And, you know, we so often, when we're looking at natural hair, and we don't want to appreciate the beauty of our natural hair. Those who want to wear it natural,
Right.
let me say that. Those who want to wear it natural, that there's so much beauty in our hair and so much flexibility
That's it.
with our hair. You know, we can do so many different things with our hair that are cultural, and that, I mean, some amazing braids and cornrows and such amazing styling and things that go on that we can do with our hair that other people can't.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you say, because I remember I used to always say to you before you got your locks that you were always changing your hair. And then I used to joke with you, if you ever went missing, I wouldn't be able to tell them what kind of, I said, oh, she may have it braided, she may have it out, she may have it, lying to the side. I don't know. But, that is the beauty of our hair, that we can wear it in so many different ways. And whether we choose to wear it straight, or we choose to wear it afro, or we choose to wear cornrows or locks or twists or, Bantu knots, whatever we choose to do, we have so many options to do it. But unfortunately, society, in a lot of ways, makes us feel almost confined as to how we can choose to wear it. And, it's interesting, the Crown study, it was done. And I was just like, and this was done in 2019. So when I read that study, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. But it actually said in 2019, I think they interviewed about 2,000 women, and they found that 80% of those women, African-American women, felt like they had to change their hair from its natural state to fit into the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
This is 2019. And that, I think they said that African-American women are 1.5 times more likely to be sent home from the workplace.
And from school. Girls from school.
Because of their hair. And I'm like, this is what, 2 years ago?
Right, because it still goes back to that whole idea of the European standard of beauty. And that the European standard of beauty is the be all and end all of what is beautiful. And the European standard of beauty is not afros, it's not braids, it's not cornrows, it's not locks. That is not the European standard of beauty. And the fact that hairstyle and texture is considered when judging a person's physical attractiveness, and women can be judged solely on not only just the color of their skin, but on their hair. And the fact that, okay, if I am an employer and I feel like, it goes back to that whole idea of what, whether or not you're a fit. And what is that fit? What does that fit look like? That fit typically is not not the way I look. Being a fit for your company is typically not the way that I look, because, even when I locked my hair, I was fortunate when I locked my hair that I was working from home, because that was a concern for me about employment with my locks. Fortunately, I was working from home, and so it was not an issue with the employer that I had, though the employer that I had, and I can say it, I worked for Apple, and Apple, I think, is a fairly relaxed, free environment, because they wear jeans all the time. Tim Cook in his jeans, and I mean, people with tattoos. Apple was a very, very relaxed environment. They could be. I think a lot of tech companies are more relaxed environments. I think when you start talking about law firms, or you're talking about banking, or you're talking about some of these other corporate environments, then that whole standard of what is the fit, because, even when we were doing research and they were talking about how typically the employee handbook, or whatever it was that talked about what was acceptable dress and things for work, did not include Black women wearing their natural hair.
Yeah.
That was not what the standard of what the company culture is, and that company culture may not include you as a Black woman wearing your natural hair,
because it's not only seen as not necessarily not beautiful, but it's also not seen sometimes as being professional.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and so that we go again to, this is really based on a matter of opinion. But it's the European old standard opinion of, professional is not necessarily having your hair out and wild and free. And then, because that's what they consider it to be wild. They want it close to your head and back in a bun. I mean, even the military went through that whole thing about their hair. And so recently, I think just this year, the Air Force and the Army changed their standards about the style of hair that women can wear. I mean, because the military, granted, you want kind of a uniform look, but they cut out cornrows for a while. They started to even go down so far as to say how big or how small your braids could be. They didn't want twists. You had to have your hair in a tight bun. Well, if my hair is short and I can't, but it's too short to get into a bun, but I can get a little ponytail, that wasn't acceptable. So they finally did, I think February of this year, they did start to allow, you to pull it back. It didn't have to be in a bun if it was too short, or the hair texture didn't allow that.
Mm-hmm.
They have started to make some changes, but these rules are made by people. And one of the reasons they made the changes, at least in the Army, was because they gathered people from different cultures. So
right.
The bottom line is, if I am only in my culture and I'm the one making the rules, I'm making the rules from a total, blind spot to anything and everybody else.
Right.
I'm not considering the fact that maybe your hair just doesn't do that. Okay. But I don't know, because I don't have that hair.
And so one of the quotes from this article, The Influence of Colorism on the Hair Experiences of African American Female Adolescents, one of the things that she said, and this was written by LaKendra Mitchell Dove, and one of the things that she said that I thought was really, really interesting is that Black hair in America has a history of being weaponized and can contribute to internalized racism. Mm-hmm. She also says that what is often targeted are those hairstyles that represent Afrocentricity, Afrocentricity, afros, braids, and locks. The blatant attack on Black hair is interconnected with the dominant culture's view of beauty standards and what is considered acceptable in terms of physical appearance. What is often missing from the discussion is the role that colorism plays in how hair is discussed and can become an issue based on styles, preference, and skin tone. So, again, as we have kind of said that, if you're a darker skinned woman wearing your natural hair, then deeply melanated. If you're a deeply melanated woman wearing your natural hair, you are possibly seen, like you were saying, as, people being intimidated, deciding that you are doing that as some kind of political statement. And I think that we have to look at and honor the fact that, again, we all have choices to make, and we have choices to make how we show up. Now, mind you, we may not always be able to make to do what we really want to do, depending upon where we find ourselves, what spaces we find ourselves in, but we all have the right to be able to make the decision as to what we want to do and how we want to wear our hair without being seen as being political or anything else other than that's how I wanted to wear my hair.
Well, then too, a lot of it too is generational. Things that aunts and uncles and parents and grandparents have said to us as children, and I don't think we had this problem so much, but you hear people refer to, oh, nappy head little kid, and you know what I'm saying, or we were kind of laughing before the show because we were always told, don't get your hair wet, okay? Do not get your hair wet. And I was telling you that one of the reasons I don't swim to this day is because I went and I had a Black swim instructor, and it seemed like the day of my lesson, she had always gotten her hair done, and she would never get in the pool with me because she had just got her hair done. And I was terrified that I would be drowning and she would be throwing me something because she was scared to get her hair wet, and I'd be drowning and she'd be worried about her hair. So, it's a lot of things that we grow up with as children. In a lot of ways, we're almost programmed to be concerned about the texture of our hair and the way our hair looks. And, oh my gosh, it's going to be humid outside. So, I got to put extra gel on, and, I can't, oh, it's raining outside. I can't, it's a perfect example. And it's just, I guess I understand. But I have seen women walk around with plastic shopping bags on their head because they got out in the rain and they just did not want to get that hair wet.
I have done it.
And,
yes.
So we are trained from a young age to be so conscious about our hair and the way it looks. And to make sure that
your edges not being, your edges not being nappy.
And but one of the things that I thought about is which is such a perfect example. It doesn't matter how much you're doing and what wonderful things you're doing. And I wish I could remember which gymnast it was. I want to say, I'm not sure if it was Dominique Dawes or one of those, but the girl was a phenomenal gymnast. And I mean, she was doing all kind of things.
All the Black women could talk about was her hair.
All they could talk about was that girl's hair. Why she didn't do something.
I want to say, was it Simone Biles?
Was it Simone Biles or Dominique? One of those. Maybe not Dominique Dawes. She was probably one of them. I mean, the girl was getting 10s and breaking records and winning gold medals. And what did people have to say about that job? Couldn't she do nothing with her hair? Are you kidding me? You were going to let the fact that this girl is breaking records be overshadowed by because you don't appreciate the way her hair looks? We are conditioned from such a young age to be so concerned that our hair is acceptable to everybody else. And she wore a style that was comfortable for her.
Well, I think too that like you say, we become so conditioned. Well, let me put it this way. Some of us have become so conditioned to be concerned about how we look and how we think other people should look, that that's how we see other people, and that's how we size them up as to who they are.
Mm.
And what, we've already decided that, it's it's the same thing. And even comes, and this is a little bit different of a conversation, but I'm just going to say that even sometimes it's even about the clothes.
Mm.
It's about the pocketbook or the shoes.
Yeah.
We've already decided that because somebody wants to wear sneakers all the time, we've made a certain determination about them and who they are, or the person that prefers jeans. Not everybody wants to wear 4-inch heels.
And I think that
More, I can't, but not everybody wants to wear 4-inch heels. Not everybody wants to, we have become so, and a lot of this is a social media thing. We've become so preoccupied with how a person looks, or that they don't have the look. How many people have missed? How many people have certain industries missed being exposed to their talent because they didn't have the look? Lettucey even said that. Lettucey was like, people were like, you're not gonna be able to be in this industry because you don't have the look.
Well, the same thing was told to Jennifer Hudson, pretty much, or Oprah Winfrey, I believe, was told the same thing, And I think that what we, especially as we can't control what other people do, but even within our own community, we really need to focus on not projecting our own hangups on other people.
Mm-hmm.
I say to you all the time, I admire the fact that you can wear your hair like that. That's not for me. Because a lot of it with your hair is how confident you feel about how good you look. So that hairstyle you have right there wouldn't go good on me because I wouldn't wear it. I would put it on. And I say this even about clothes, and I say that all the time about you and I and our differences. I'm very much a sweatpants and jeans type person, and you're a, diva. And you are. And we could put on the same we could put on the same exact thing, and people would be raving about how you wore it. Because you wear your clothes, I put on my clothes. So when it comes to our hair, it's the same thing. Whatever it is, I have to feel comfortable. I have to feel confident, whether it's having my hair straight or braids or twists or locks or bantu knots or whatever it is, I have to feel comfortable and confident. And just because what you're wearing is not for me, I should not take my own hangups about my inability to wear it and project it on you and make you feel like you're any less of a person or any less worthy because you are wearing a style that I can't manage, or that may not even be my preferred taste. But that doesn't negate your ability to wear your hair the way you want to. And it doesn't take away from any of your talents or your abilities.
Mm-hmm. And we have to be willing to accept people and meet them where they are and who they're, like you say, who they're comfortable being. Not everybody wants to, not everybody wants to wear makeup. Not everybody wants to, what I'm saying? Not everybody wants to be the whole, glamour girl. And that doesn't mean that that person doesn't have still so much value. And we miss out. This is what, I say, we miss out on experiencing different people's values, different people's talent, different people's knowledge, because we've decided, because of how they look, because of how they look, that, it was so interesting because I was on a call the other day. I was on I'm part of an organization, and I was on a call, and this is about business and professional women, right? So it was a kind of thing where it was the presenter was the only person being able to be seen. And so they talked about this woman and all the things she had done. And so she's on camera and she's got a hoodie on. Now, see, again, this goes to show you how we do. And I'm thinking, you showed up with a hoodie on? But she was amazing. She was absolutely amazing. And she even made the point that, and I mean, this is a woman who has, first of all, she's wealthy, and she controls a lot of wealth in the things that she does. And she said, I've come to the place now, and I've learned that, look, I'm going to be who I am. Now, if you want me to help you, and I can help you, and I have access to money, and I move money around, but I'm going to show up like me. I'm going to be me. Because my first thing was, I'm like, I expected her, because the other women in the organization, they're the the hair and the makeup. The hair is tight, the makeup is tight, everything is like tight. And then this woman comes on and she got a hoodie on. I'm like, but what is going on here? But I mean, she was amazing. She was so amazing. I ordered her book.
Okay, but so here's the thing.
But I was like, no, you didn't show up with a hoodie on.
But here's the thing. She is at that level where it doesn't make a difference for her. But
right.
For the rest of the world, okay, for you and me.
Even prior to that, I think she was very much about, look. Well, I mean, she said she had to get to that place too.
Right. You have to get to that place, because in order to,
in other spaces, she had to do different stuff. But now that and this is the whole thing about being an entrepreneur and being able to do what you want to do and be who you are, and not have to be in these, be part of these rigid rules and these rigid, these rigid standards, that you can be who you are as an entrepreneur. And look.
But some people want to go through a certain corporate thing so that they can get the knowledge and the skills they need to become entrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so in doing that, though, you do have to insert because that one of the things the Crown study was saying is that employers often looked at people with what they call textured hair, which they included afros, braids, locks, and twists. Employers often look at those people automatically and assume they weren't job ready. And so, and when you're looking also at, they were also looking at how they were rated as far as their ability to do their job, and they got lower ratings.
I very distinctly remember, now mind you, I am swiftly approaching 60, but I distinctly remember when I was going through this job readiness program, and we were told, you do not go to an interview in braids.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe they said anything about per se afros, but they were very, 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 very clear that you do not go to an interview in braids.
Mm-hmm.
So this was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm about to say this. This was like 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Or more, because I might have been 18, 19. Okay. So it was very clear that there were certain ways that you had to show up in an interview. And it's very interesting, because you and I talked about this before we came on, that many people who are now baby boomers, this is the kind of thing that we grew up with. You didn't go to work. You didn't go to work that kind of way. You didn't go to interviews with braids. And, some of the ways when I've been to job fairs, it is just amazing to me how people show up to a job fair. And I have to remember that I'm from a different generation.
Mhm.
I'm from a generation where you had to wear a suit
Mhm.
to a job fair. You didn't come to a job fair. I remember one job fair I went to, the girl was there with, and I guess nobody could watch the baby, but she was there with her baby. And the first thing I thought, sister girl, you're not gonna get a job. Because already they're already saying, okay, you can't get a babysitter.
But that was, but
That's what I would think as an employer. If you got to come to the job fair with your baby, that means you can't get a babysitter.
Right.
So and when we look at how many times we view people based on how they show up, because we were taught that before you open up your mouth, people are looking at you.
That's it. And we do it. We ourselves do it. I think everybody. You look at a person and you make a determination about them, and it's a lot of it is a cultural thing, because what I may look at and say, man, that's a rockin' hairstyle. Someone of a different culture may look at it and say, that's unkempt. Because you have to be culturally sensitive to what is the norm, or what is natural, let's just say, in that ethnicity. And it doesn't mean that I'm any, you cannot say that because you don't like my hair, I'm not going to be a good employee. But we are at that point, unfortunately, and we're still there. It's getting better. I think there are a lot more. I did read that relaxers and perms and things, the sales are down 34%. Thank God, because that stuff is toxic to you. It's very harmful to you. So especially if you're doing it on a continuous basis, every 8-10 weeks, you're getting those chemicals slapped on your head. It's not a good thing. But I think that we are becoming more comfortable with who we are and how we show up. And like I say, it doesn't mean to say that everybody's got to go natural. If you want to get your hair straightened, or you want to get weaves, or you have to do what feels comfortable for you. But I just think that we just have to really be cognizant of trying to educate people on, the beauty of the different ways that we can wear our hair. And it's a double-edged sword for me, because it's kind of disheartening that something like this even has to be legislated. But it's good that people are finally being made to at least stop and think about it, because the Crown Act, which is stands for, oh Jesus, what does it stand for? It's about the ability of not being able to be discriminated against because of your hair. And it's been passed already in, I think California was the first to pass it. It's been passed in New Jersey, New York, Maryland, somewhere else, and Connecticut just passed it into law. And there are certain states that have it passed. Not states, certain cities have it. I believe it's a law in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Columbus and some other cities as well. But it prevents the discrimination against a person because of their hair, specifically referring to the texture hair, where they include locks and braids and twists and afros. So it's disheartening that in the 21st century, in 2021, we have to have a law to stop people from judging us on our hair.
I don't know, they would say stop them from judging us, but they can't. I don't know. Well, let me say this. It stands for creating a respectful and open world for natural hair.
Right. Okay.
And I think that it certainly brings light to the fact that we should not be discriminated against because of it. But I still am not so sure that that's still not happening.
Oh, it's going to happen. I mean, any discrimination is going to happen. It's just, I think that it just kind of opens up the conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, just like you're not supposed to discriminate against a person because of their skin color, and you can't stop it from happening because you can't get into people's minds and turn off that.
What I'm saying is, I don't really know that, even though you have that law, that's going to make people decide that they are going to hire people whose hair is in a natural state that does not once again fit with what people feel is the culture of their company or their workplace.
But I think what it does is it at least opens up the conversation. And I think that it might bring more awareness to people that, these are some old standards that are based on, I think that people a lot of times just go through life not questioning where certain rules or policies came from, because that's just the way it's always been, and this is what we do. But I think sometimes if you can open up a conversation with a person, at least you can start a dialogue. It may not necessarily, it's not going to cure all evils, but I think that the first step is to open up the dialogue. And by making people aware, I think that sometimes we have biases that we don't even realize we have. And that we don't even know where they came from. It's just the way things have always been done. And so by opening up the conversation, you're allowing people the opportunity to confront their bias and to maybe make some steps towards change, and maybe stop to really think about what they're losing by prejudging people.
Right, which is so true of all prejudgment, that you don't know what you might be missing out on when you choose to not associate with someone based on what you think or who you think they are, based on their appearance. And the fact that someone wants to wear their hair natural is a personal choice. And it's a choice that should be honored, just like any other choice that someone makes about how they choose to present themselves and show up in their spaces. And I want to say this here. This particular quote here comes from the Louisiana State University doctoral dissertation. And this was done by Rhea Monet Perkins. And she says, the relationship between skin tone and hair texture are key elements of the Black woman's appearance. Her appearance is important when considering how she views herself, how she is perceived, and how these perceptions may conflict. In general, Black women's hair does not fit the white aesthetic, and at times has been considered unprofessional for the workplace and undesirable in mating selection. Black hair and skin complexion are so intertwined in race and gender complexities within the Black community, which presents challenges for darker women with natural hair because beauty standards are so embedded in white supremacy. And that was from Robinson in 2011. And I think we have to, as we get ready to wrap up, we have to look at the fact that, again, this becomes an issue of what standard of beauty has been dictated to the masses, about it being the closer you are to the whole European, the whole white aesthetic, the more beautiful you are, the more acceptable you are, the more valuable you are. And so when you start looking at deeply melanated women in particular and their natural hair, that they're so far on the other end of this whole aesthetic of what is beautiful, that it really becomes very much of an issue for those of us that are deeply melanated and choose to do natural hair, that it can become such an intricate thing of how we move about and how we are able to navigate in these different spaces, because, you know, we're seen as being the whole other end of the beauty spectrum, that we're not, it's not even a middle ground. We're all the way at the other end of the spectrum than what that white aesthetic idea of beauty is. And so it becomes more and more difficult for us to navigate in the world with natural hair. And it's something that definitely we're going to continue to talk about, and what needs to be talked about, and how we need to begin to see ourselves as beautiful with our natural hair, if that's what you choose to see ourselves as beautiful with our natural hair, and to show up in those spaces with the confidence and the courage that I am beautiful. And yes, I have my afro. Yes, I have my locks. Yes, I have my braids. And yes, I am beautiful.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And hair for us is such a culturally rich experience.
Yeah.
It's it's just even amazing. Not only for women but for men. For men it's the barber shop and the cultural enrichment that happens at the barber shop, and for women it may be either the beauty shop, or as children, you used to sit and get your hair done by somebody else, and so it's just such a cultural connection for us that we don't need to lose,
Right.
because of how we other people are trying to make us feel.
Right.
So,
Right.
we need to keep that connection. We need to keep that bonding. And we need to continue just to walk through the world feeling beautiful. And like I said, however you choose to wear your hair.
Yes.
Wear it confidently.
Exactly.
And wear it for the right reason.
Right. Right.
The right reason.
And if the big thing is, we should be able to, if that's what we want to do, we should be able to be natural, and we should be able to have great jobs and great businesses and great careers being natural, if that's what we choose to do.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be our hair should not be an added burden. I mean, no one else is judged on their hair.
No.
So it shouldn't be, we shouldn't be an additional burden to us.
Right. Right.
But we'll see what happens.
Yes. Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank you
for having this conversation. And I hope that we will all begin to really be very conscious of how we size people up, and how we decide who people are before we've had a conversation. We decide, based on how somebody chooses to wear their hair, or what they choose to wear, or any of that. We need to begin to see the humanity in people, and and operate in civility. That's what we really need to begin to do, so that we are having all of these amazing experiences we can have, because we meet different people and we choose to begin to get to know them for who they are on the inside. So thank you all for joining us so much. And again, invite people to come and look at this, and become a part of this Colorism Conversations that we do here every Sunday night. And I want to tell you all that, remind you that this week at 9 p.m. we're doing The Color of Beautiful After Dark. Please join me for some evening, get ready for our rest conversations. The Color of Beautiful After Dark. I'm in a boot camp at 8 p.m. So it might be a little after 9 this week for Color Beautiful After Dark, but please join me. Also, March 18th, there's still opportunity for you to sign up for From Pain to Prose, the spoken word workshop. It's going to be absolutely amazing, where we do some spoken word, and it's an 8-week workshop, and we're going to work through spoken word and writing and being able to journal and about what's going on with us and how we feel about the different things that affect us as deeply melanated women. Also, what else? Follow us on all of our social media platforms. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on YouTube as The Color of Beautiful. We are The Color of Beautiful everywhere. COLOUR is how we spell color, because you are beautiful. So we are The Color of Beautiful everywhere. On Twitter, we are Color of BEAUTI. Please follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. It's Karen Moore on LinkedIn. So we are beefing up our LinkedIn page also. So please follow us on all of our social media platforms. Go to our website, thecolorofbeautiful.com, and you can get all the information on all of the different things that we have going on. Women's History Month, our Color Beautiful After Dark, and From Pain to Prose, the workshop. We look forward to seeing some of you in that workshop. And again, thank you, beautiful.
Thank you.
It was awesome. You guys have an amazing, amazing, amazing night and an amazing week. Don't forget Wondrously Made Wednesdays. We are on Wondrously Made Wednesdays on Wednesday. And just have an amazing, amazing rest of your weekend. We say it loud. We wear it proud. I am The Color of Beautiful. I'm Dr. Karen Moore.